Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says the electricity sabotage was launched from the U.S. cities of Chicago and Houston. He has addressed the nation to talk about the current situation and the reestablishment of basic services.
Hemos descubierto muchas cosas.
We have found out a lot of things. We have evidence that the cyber attack was ordered from the U.S. I can only say from now that the attack was sent from the U.S. cities of Houston and Chicago. It was an attack against the electric system, telecommunications, and the Internet. It was a persecution against Venezuela ordered by the Pentagon.
President Maduro has also announced the creation of a special commission to investigate and clarify the event.
I have created a special commission to investigate the cyber attack. I have asked for the integration of international experts, the UN support, and the countries such as Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba, which have experience with this kind of attacks. The commission to investigate this attack, the biggest in history, will be led by the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez.
A small-sized crowd of opposition supporters rallied in Caracas for a gathering, which was convoked by a number of opposition parties. These are images from the social media account of Voluntad Popular lawmaker Juan Andrés Mejía. Numbers were not terribly impressive, but the day of protest was called in order to decry the power outage and the loss of communication services, which they blame on the government. The Venezuelan government has announced that electricity is back on in almost all the country. The Minister of Communications said it was a victory for the people, but he warned that everybody should remain on alert because of the possibility of further attacks.
At this time, almost all the electricity supply has been restored in the whole of the country, in an effort led personally by President Nicolas Maduro. He was there at the command center alongside the workers of Corpo Elec in permanent communication with the Vice President, who was in the field in Guyana, overseeing the supply of electricity from our 3 hydroelectric dams. We can and we have the right to claim victory, but we must not lower our guard, because the electricity war continues. Since the Venezuelan right decided that this was a reasonable way to attack the Venezuelan people, this war has caused more than 200 deaths, including people electrocuted in earlier acts of sabotage. More than 150 electricity substations damaged, millions worth of losses in electrical equipment. And of course, as soon as the electricity goes off, that affects the water systems, the health system, the banks, and the internet. This electricity war continues. But President Donald Trump, you made a mistake. Mr. John Bolton, you made a mistake. Mr. Marco Rubio, well, I won't even mention you, a psychopath like Juan Guaido. Mr. Pompeo got it wrong too. You chose someone who is capable of saying what was immediately contradicted by an expert who is very much on the side of the opposition. This expert says some are saying that the Guri plant couldn't be hacked because it has an analog system. But that's false. The system is digital with the latest technology. That's what he said.
Our correspondent in Caracas, Laura Prada, brings us up to date.
Hello, and yes, nice to greet you at this time. As you can see behind me, Caracas, the capital city of Venezuela, is lighting up. As you can see, there are still some places that are waiting to recover power supply, but almost the full city, the entire city has lit up. Even though there are some parts of the capital and some parts of the country that electricity haven't arrived yet. Just a few moments ago, President Nicolas Maduro has been speaking to the people of Venezuela, accompanied by the government members, the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, the President of the Constituent Assembly, Diosdado Cabello. Each of them, he named them part of the commission that will investigate what happened in this attack to the national electrical system. Also, today, earlier, the Minister of Communication, Jorge Rodriguez, said that almost more than 80% of the capital of the country had already recovered the electricity, and that more than 150 substations, electrical substations, suffered serious damages during this national blackout. Also, that the main reason that the nation has recovered so fast is because of the Venezuelan people, their resistance in this electrical attack that suffered the country. This is what's been taking place here. We were out today in the streets, and Caracas is going back to normal, to daily life. People were in the streets buying groceries. The transportation hub, the metro, which is the main way of transport here in Caracas, haven't started working yet, but there are some routes disposed by the government that people can use to move around the city, and everything is going back to normal. So we'll be here, we'll continue informing. We can say at this minute that electric supply here in Venezuela, specifically in Caracas, has stabilized and is almost complete in the entire country. We'll continue updating, so keep in touch.
We thank Laura for that report. The Venezuelan government said that drinking water would also be restored in the coming hours. So, how have people in poor neighborhoods survived and resisted for the last 6 days? Our correspondent in Caracas was there to find out.
We are heading into the center of Petare, the biggest poor neighborhood in Caracas. Throughout almost all of the capital and the country, the electricity is back on. The mood here and people's attitude is surprising after so many days without electricity.
We understand that they had us by the neck, but that doesn't mean we are going to go and scream about it. We know we have been at war for a long time, but it's clearer now because they are going for our water and our electricity. Maybe there'll be an attack on our gas supply next, but here in the hood we are calm. These people are very aware. Chavez taught us a long time ago that we solve things through the ballot box.
It is at the ballot box that the people decide, and they did decide. People here are clear that they don't want anything imposed from abroad, and they are resisting.
We made lamps with diesel and stuff. That's how we got light here. People came to us for one and we gave them out.
People came together?
Yes, there was a lot of solidarity.
Why are the barrios so calm?
Because we don't want war. We want to be left in peace.
There is a lot of awareness here, a lot of maturity. People want peace.
This is a psychological war against the people. They want to bring down the government. They want to turn the people against the government. They are pushing them. Those people abroad have always wanted to get hold of the country's oil.
It's young people who are reflecting the most, as they experience one of the hardest moments in their lives, about the threats from the United States and its allies, and the vulnerability that their families face.
People are resisting. They don't want to get into a war. They're waiting to see what happens. When the lights come back on, people are happy. And even if it goes off again, they are still happy and they go out into the streets.
The sun always rises in Venezuela, and 6 days after the attack on the grid, almost all of the electricity in Venezuela is back on.
During an interview with Telesur, the Venezuelan Minister of Water said that authorities expected to have one of the production lines that supplies waters to the area of Caracas ready by the end of the afternoon. They will continue working to secure the total supply of water for all neighborhoods.
We hope that by the end of the afternoon, we will have ready the first line of the production system. We have 3 production systems that supply the city of Caracas, an important part of the Valles del Tuy, Los Altos Mirandinos, and the Arco de Vargas. Look how important this system is and the number of people it serves. We will continue working through the night to add more production lines.
And health officials in Venezuela are rejecting media reports saying that at least 10 children died in the José Manuel de los Ríos hospital as a result of the power outage in Caracas.
It's a lie. This has nothing to do with the reality we experience here in the José Manuel de los Rios Hospital. Just like everyone else in Venezuela, we also suffer from the situation here at the hospital. But thank God, we were prepared for it with our emergency power generations, and we have been able to handle the situation. Our staff managed to stabilize everything and ensure that the children are receiving the required treatment.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Mexican government and the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights have signed an agreement to relaunch the investigation into the disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students. Our correspondent Eduardo Martinez has more.
The Mexican government and the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights have signed an agreement to follow up the investigation into the forced disappearance of 43 students in Ayotzinapa. Relatives of these students are satisfied with this agreement because it's another step towards meeting their demands. The disappearances took place on September 26 and 27, 2014, and still nobody knows where these students are. The families accuse the government of former President Enrique Peña Nieto of not willing to clarify what happened. But with the new government, a truth commission has been set up, including government, authorities, international experts, and relatives of the victims, as well as groups of lawyers and human rights advocates. A new special prosecutor is also set to be named to lead the case. More experts will be joining in the coming months to help with the investigation. It is expected that this can establish a new way of solving cases for thousands of disappearances in Mexico. Let's recall that in Mexico, over 40,000 people have disappeared as a result of the violence in the country.
That was Eduardo Martinez from Mexico City, and the president of Uruguay, Tabaré Vázquez, has sacked the head of the army. The removal of General Guido Manini Rio came as a surprise, even though he had questioned a number of government policies. Manini Rios comes from a traditional political family. His grandfather was one of the founders of the Colorado Party. Two military policemen in Brazil have been arrested in connection with the murders of Rio de Janeiro councilwoman Mariel Franco and her driver Anderson Gomez. The arrest comes just 3 days before the first anniversary of her death. There are reports that one of the officers lives in a building where Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro owns an apartment. In January, 5 other military policemen were arrested in connection with Franco's killing. Our correspondent Brian Muir has more.
On the morning of March 12th, the civil police in Rio de Janeiro raided the houses of and arrested 2 former military police officers for the killings of Socialist City Councilwoman Marielle Franco and her driver Anderson, which took place in a brutal crime last year. Now, this is raising a lot of eyebrows in Brazil. First of all, one of the officers, Rony Lessa, was living in a luxury condominium complex in the Barra da Tijuca neighborhood, which is a wealthy neighborhood located directly in front of the 4 favelas controlled by the Escritório do Crime militia organization. How could a former military police officer who made a salary of around $1,000 a month be living in such a luxurious residence? But more importantly, the luxury condominium where he was arrested is the same condominium where President Jair Bolsonaro lives. And photos have surfaced of the 2 men together. Is there any connection? People want to know.
That was Brian Muir from Sao Paulo. A teacher strike in St. Lucia shut down schools across the country. The educators took part in a nationwide walkout over stalled salary negotiations with the government. They instead attended an emergency meeting convened by their union. Proposals for the 2016 to 2019 negotiation period were resubmitted 7 months ago, but the government has yet to respond. It is budget day in Barbados. That's when Barbadians will hear about the country's financial standing. The Caribbean nation continues to make good economic progress almost a year after it approached the IMF.
Next Wednesday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. I will deliver the annual budget of the country, and will do so as we, for the first time, take the second reading of the annual appropriations bill, bringing together a process that was hitherto separated for all of our previous experience. And the reason for it is this, that numbers make no sense unless I can show the country and we can agree as a country where we are going.
2 new icebergs have broken off a glacier in Chile's Patagonia region, causing alarm among scientists. The icebergs broke away on February 20th and March 7th, after a larger block of ice the size of 3 soccer fields split away from the glacier. Scientists say global warming is increasing the frequency of these types of breaks. Let's take a short break now. Welcome again. The British Parliament has for a second time rejected Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit deal by a huge margin. Members of Parliament voted down the proposal by 391 votes to 242. Parliament will now take greater control of what happens next. On Wednesday, it expects to vote on whether to leave the EU without a deal. If that falls, as most believe it will, members of Parliament will vote on Thursday whether to request an extension of the exit date beyond March 29th.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker, I profoundly regret the decision that this House has taken tonight. I continue to believe that by far the best outcome is that the United Kingdom leaves the European Union in an orderly fashion with a deal. And that the deal we've negotiated is the best and indeed the only deal available.
The government has been defeated again by an enormous majority, and they must now accept their deal, their proposal, the one the Prime Minister has put, is clearly dead and does not have the support of this House. And quite clearly, no deal must be taken off the table.
Our correspondent in London, Pablo Navarrete, brings us the latest.
Today, Tuesday, British Prime Minister Theresa May suffered her second major defeat in the British Parliament over her attempts to pass her deal, the Brexit deal, negotiated by her government with the European Union. Now, the deadline date for Britain to leave the European Union is scheduled for 29th of March, so less than 3 weeks away, and now Theresa May has suffered a new major defeat in trying to get her deal passed through the British Parliament. Now, she lost by 391 votes voted against the deal, and only 242 voted in favour. Theresa May said she lamented the decision, but that insisted that her deal was the only one on offer. Now, Jeremy Corbyn, the socialist leader of the UK Labour Party, the principal opposition party in Britain, reiterated its call for the need for a general election to resolve the paralysis which has taken hold of the British government as a result of its inability to get this Brexit vote through, and the general paralysis this has caused and political crisis this has caused as everything else seems to be in a state of flux until this Brexit issue is resolved. Now, the Labour call for a general election, which it has been doing for a number of months now, seems to be being taken seriously by various analysts from across the political spectrum, from the right to the left, saying that a general election is a real possibility. Now, the next step is for tomorrow for there to be another vote on whether Britain should leave the European Union with a hard Brexit, with no deal effectively between the government and the European Union. So that vote will take place tomorrow, Wednesday, in the British Parliament. So that's the state of play. We'll be updating you on tomorrow's results here from London.
That was Pablo Navarrete from London. At least 22 civilians have died after several airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition in the north of Yemen. According to the UN, women and children were among the victims. Thousands of people have been killed and more than 2 million have fled the country since the war began in March 2015. At least one Palestinian has been shot dead by Israeli forces in the West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry identified the victim as 23-year-old Muhammad Shaheen. The incident occurred when clashes broke out after Israeli soldiers entered a northern city to remove security cameras. Earlier in the day, another man was also killed by Israeli troops after he approached them with a knife. And scuffles have broken between the Israeli police and Palestinians at a sacred compound in the city of Jerusalem. The clashes took place after the Israeli police closed the complex gates and tried to force people out, saying a firebomb was thrown at a police post. The place is at the same time the third holy site in Islam and the location of the Jewish most sacred spot. The newly appointed prime minister in Algeria has pledged to meet protesting people's demands. During a courtesy visit to his predecessor, Noureddine Bedoui said that he is going to ensure that all people's demands are fulfilled. Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika named the interim minister in his government as the new prime minister on Monday after indicating that he was no longer seeking re-election.
I promise all citizens that we will day and night be listening to the people, getting closer to them and serving them, especially during these calls. In all honesty to the Algerian people, as the power of our election as a government, we promise to materialize all their demands. All members of my government will accompany me on this difficult task and responsibility. God willing, we will be up to this task.
The United Nations have warned about a plan by the government in Bangladesh to transfer thousands of Rohingya refugees to an isolated island. The U.S. Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in Myanmar says that the plan of transferring around 23,000 Rohingyas in April could potentially create a new crisis. A case could be opened against Myanmar due to its treatment to the Rohingya people.
I am very hopeful, and I think that this is something that was unprecedented, and it is a tiny step forward, but I really do wish that this would open the floodgates, as you say, and it was a very important, Hamida's group, Shanti Mohila, they were the ones that were responsible in getting the ICC, the prosecutor, to even discuss this, to even decide to accept the situation, the case.
Today, I'm here to request to all of you three things. First, we want to seek justice. We want justice with compensation. Second, we want to return to our home with safety and dignity. And we want to have full citizenship. And third, we want to have access to education system in Myanmar.
And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram for Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.